Welcome back, everyone. In today's video, I'm going to start a new series on logical chess move by move. Every move explained by Irving Chernev. I have the book right here. I read this book a few years back, and I'll be reading it again to cover the games for this series. Overall, my thoughts on this book, it's a fun read. I do recommend it for beginners. It does cover some cons. You know, you know, it, the games are old. It might be in a older, I guess, style of the games. It does cover some D4 openings, which I don't recommend. If you're a beginner, I don't recommend you to play D4. Um, I recommend for beginners to play E4. However, if you read this book and you get inspired to play D4 because of the ideas, go for it. I'm all for playing for fun, whatever helps you, motivates you play. But I do want to advise that for beginners, the opening e4 with the e4 pawn is better, mostly because it leads to tactical positions. With d4, it leads to a more closed position, a more positional game. So yeah, but overall, it's a fun read. So let's go ahead and cover the first game. We have Von Schev versus Teichmann in Berlin in 1907. So e4, uh, white's white puts a pawn in the center and opens line for his bishop and queen. White threatens d4 on the next move. The pawn also controls d5 and f5. So white puts a pawn in the center. The bishop is now released. The queen is now released. White center pawn controls f5 and d5. And again, what does white want to do? White wants to control the center. So in the next move, white wants to play d4 and control these center squares. So that's why black returns with e5. Black wants a piece of the center as well. So now black has a pawn in the center. Now black controls d4 and f4. Black's queen is released and black's bishop is released. White plays knight f3, develops a knight towards the center. And again, it's better to put your pieces in the center because they can have more active squares versus if it's on the edge of the board, they're pretty much out of the game. And again, this move attacks the e5 pawn. So it forces black to defend the pawn. And again, knight defends with knight c6, develops a piece and defends a pawn. And again, how do you decide that knight f6 or knight c6 is the best move compared to other moves, right? Well, if you defend with f6, it defends with the pawn, but now it blocks the square for the knight. And also f6 opens the diagonal for the king, weakens the diagonal. So now this is a weakness for black. If you defend it with queen e7, it blocks in your bishop, right? And now you are using your queen, the strongest piece, to defend a pawn, which is not ideal. So now with d6, it blocks in this bishop. So again, that's not ideal. So knight c6 is the best move. Now we have bishop to c4. The bishop gets on a good diagonal. Has some squares in the center. Attacks f7, which is only guarded by the king. Bishop c5. Here, Chernev says to place each piece as quickly as possible on the square where it is most effective. Move each piece only once in the opening. And again, this is a symmetrical position. White plays c3. The drawbacks to c3 are that it is a pawn move and blocks the c3 square for the knight, right? So the knight can no longer go to c3. So what is white threatening? White threatens d4. So white is hoping d4, then black captures, white recaptures, and now white will have 2 pawns in the center, and now the c3 square will be available for the knight. That's what white is hoping for. And again, after this, white can also play queen to b3 to add more pressure here on this diagonal. So black plays queen e7. So now black is preparing for this exchange, right? Now d4, black captures. White captures with c3. Now queen captures with e4 check. And then after that, black can save his bishop. And black wins a pawn. So again, white sees this, and before white plays d4, white castles. White postpones the advance of the d pawn and moves his king to a safer place. Castle early in the game, preferably on the king side. And again, if you're a beginner, always castle early. You can even castle, even before playing c3, you can castle, right? If you're a beginner. I would say up to maybe 1200 or 1400 chess.com, you can get away with castling on the first 4 moves, right? Playing e4, knight f3, bishop c4, and then castling. It's only when you start losing then you're gonna have to delay castling, right? But castle as fast as you can and make your opponent beat you, right? Your opponent might launch a pawn storm, make him beat you that way. Once you start losing games, that means that, hey, you're gonna have to kind of delay casting for a bit to see what your opponent's gonna do, and then you can choose to castle king side or queen side. So let's go back to the game. Black plays d6, strengthens the center and supports the e-pawn and the bishop. Now the c8 bishop can get in the game. Bishop g4 is a threat. Okay, white plays d4, hoping black will exchange pawns. Okay, takes. And now black can still capture here. Black, however, plays bishop b6. Since the e-pawn is defended, black doesn't have to capture. Despite its formidable appearance, white's pawn center is shaky. Again, the d-pawn is attacked 3 times, and white must keep triple guard while trying to complete this development. Now queen b3 doesn't work because it removes a guard from d4. Black is still threatening bishop g4, removing the f3 knight. So white tries to set up a trap in the next move. So again, it might look nice, right? Here we have 2 pawns in the center, it's defended, etc. But again, it's attacked 3 times and is defended 3 times. So it's kind of shaky, right? Meaning if black plays g4 and takes out this knight, queen recaptures, now takes, and black will win a pawn. Same if white plays queen g3, now takes, and then knight takes, and then the bishop takes. Bishop wins the knight, so bishop, black wins a piece. So white plays a4, threatening to attack the bishop with a5. This is a premature attack. White needs to develop all his pieces before attacking. So a6. So what is white counting on? What is white hoping for? Let's say a4, right? So white is hoping for maybe something like knight f6 and then attack the bishop. Bishop captures. Then white plays d5 to take away the defender from the bishop. After knight b8, then the rook can capture on a5. If a5, if the knight captures, then rook captures, bishop captures, and queen a4 check. After bishop d7, then queen captures on a5. Okay, so a5, a6 by black, then a5, hoping black will take the pawn. Black doesn't take the pawn, bishop a7, then h3. So Chernev calls this a coffeehouse move for weak players that dread of having a piece pinned. Never move pawns in front of the king. So the cons of this move are that you cannot move the pawn back. The pawn can become a target for a sacrifice. So now you have to watch out for bishop sacrifice. The g3 square is now weakened. It was defended twice, now just once by the f2 pawn. Weakens the structure permanently, okay? And then the pros are it prevents bishop g4, a pin on the knight, and also creates space for the king, which comes in handy in the endgame. And again, I've played before. You're going to have games where you never move a pawn here, and in the endgame, sometimes you're going to get back rank checkmated, right? Because you never move the pawn. As long as you watch out in the endgame that you don't get back rank checkmated is fine. And here, well, I mean, in the endgame, it comes in handy because you already have, if you get checked in the back rank, the king goes to h2. Okay, now I do want to say and add that, again, black wants to play here bishop g4, and then if you move your queen out the way, black will take here on f3 and mess up your pawn structure. Now, hopefully you have a defender here defending this knight, either with the queen or the knight on d2 to recapture. But if you do forget, and that's happened to me on some games where I forget, and black takes on f3, then you have some ideas. I'll give you some ideas. Right, so let's go ahead and kind of play through this. Let's say I move the queen here, bishop here. Now I move my bishop here, and black takes. So now, again, the king is exposed. But now you can go king h1 and put your rook on g1, right? And it'll work if, let's say, black castles this way. Now you can move your rook here to help, right? And then you can end up doubling up. Maybe you can develop your knight and then double up here on this file. If not, you might have to play your rook to e1 and then give your king f1 and e2 as an escape route, right? If you start getting attacked. So let's go ahead and continue with the game. Knight f6 attacks e4. It also blocks the queen here. Blocks the queen's diagonal. Good move as it follows general principles. You develop a piece towards the center, develop with a threat. Okay. Now here, again, let's look at what's going on. Let's see, white has 3 pieces developed, right? Is castle, king is castle. So you can say, you can argue that the rook is developed or it's not in the game, right? It's developed, but 2 pieces that are in the game. Black has 1, 2, 3, 4. So if white opens the position, it's going to favor black. If white captures, again, this is going to favor black. Because again, black will just start attacking because it has more pieces. So that means that white should be doing the opposite, right? Possibly closing the position. until white catches up in development. Possibly playing d5, for sure not capturing, right? Maybe playing rook e1 to defend the pawn, and then closing the position. Again, but instead, white captures. White exchanges and opens up lines for his pieces. Unfortunately, this reacts in black's favor because black has superior development. Again, better move for white is to play rook e1 to defend the e4 pawn, followed by piece development. Here, the knight captures. Stronger than taking with the pawn because the knight is now centralized. The disappearance of white's pawn has benefited black's bishop on a7. So now black's bishop on a7 is very strong, right? And it's pinning the pawn to the king. So that means this is a weak square, right? The knight guards the bishop, and the knight guards this square on g5, right? The knight guards h4, and then now the pawn used to guard g3, but this is now a weakness on g3. Okay. So again, white needs to play rook e1 to defend the pawn here. And actually the knight is attacking the bishop. So maybe bishop to d3, right? Defends the pawn and the bishop is defended by the queen. So white goes knight captures e5, queen captures e5. It looks plausible as white gets rid of the powerful placed piece, but white also gets rid of the defender of his king. So notice how there was a knight here, now there's a queen. Versus in white's position, the knight was here, but there is no piece, there is no queen there. It would be different if the white queen was here, but there is no piece there. So now, remember the knight used to guard h4? So now g3 and h4 are weak squares that black will target. Again, observe that white's knight has disappeared completely from the board. Black's knight has been replaced by another piece. The queen is magnificently posted at e5. Notice how the squares g3 and h4 for white are now weak. The knight no longer protects h4. The f2 pawn is pinned to the knight, so it no longer protects g3. The e4 pawn is still threatened. And now white needs to check for a bishop sacrifice from black. Right? So now as white, you have to see, okay, what is black threatening? Okay, what if black takes on h3? And I take, now queen g3 check, king h1, queen h3 check. And now black has 1-2 pawns for a bishop, and he has the initiative, meaning he's going to start attacking. Then I can come into g4, and it's already looking bad for white. So if you see this, you have to play queen f1 or queen f3, right, to defend this. Queen f3 defends the pawn on e4, and it puts the queen where the knight used to be on the king side to help defend. Right now, if queen f3, if the bishop takes on h3, the queen just takes here. And of course, it drops this pawn, but it's better than what white played, right? So white played knight d2, defending the pawn, hoping that black will play knight captures e4. Since black has a better position, again, black has a better position, so now black can afford to look for sacrifices. Okay, which he does. Black plays bishop captures h3, punishes h3 by white. Here, you still have to play queen f3, right? But it now means that you're behind. Because now the queen still defends the pawn, it attacks the bishop. The bishop will retreat. Instead, white captures with G captures H3. And again, this is worse because now the king is exposed along the G file, and this H3 pawn is weak. Right, and then now black will invade here with G3. Queen G3 check, queen captures the G3 pawn, invades the white's position, king H1, queen captures H3 check. Black captures another defending pawn, further exposing the king. King G1, knight G4, now the knight joins in on the attack. Threatening checkmate on H2. So white has to defend this square H2 or give his king some type of way to run, right? But again, in this case, the king cannot run to F1 because the queen guards this square. So white plays knight F3, guarding H2 and stopping mate. King H1, Queen G3, King H1, and then we have bishop captures H2. This is where white resigned, right? Now, here it says, yeah, pretty much if rook takes, queen takes, right? And now this piece is threatened, etc. Now, according to Stockfish, this is a blunder, right? And I'll talk a little bit about this, right? This is a blunder according to Stockfish. Black should have continued by castling queenside, right? Castling queenside, and the game continues. Okay. So the reason why is a blunder is because now white has bishop captures f7 check. If king captures, then white has queen d5 check, and it's like a perpetual continuous check. King e7. No, if king e7, right? Bishop captures f7. Bishop captures f7. King captures f7. Queen to d5 check. If king e7, then bishop g5 check. Right? And now the king is forced on some checks here from the queen. And it gives white some fighting chances. Right? So again, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know what you all thought. Leave a comment down below. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.